The text begins with the narrator introducing himself. He is an elderly man and a lawyer by occupation. In his 30 years of experience, he has met many interesting people, especially scriveners or copyists. But there is this one guy whom he hires, and he turns out to be the most peculiar individual he has ever met. My name is Anuj, and this is the summary of Bartleby the Scrivener by Herman Melville. The story is set on Wall Street, which is the financial hub in the USA. So the place is full of tall buildings. It's a concrete jungle. And in one of those tall buildings, our lawyer has his chambers. He's an unambitious lawyer. He does not visit courts. He has no desire to fight for justice or anything. So he rather deals with bonds, mortgages, or title deeds, mainly document work. He has three employees: Turkey, who is around 50 years old, Nippers, who is 25, and Gingernut, a 12-year-old who is an office boy. Turkey and Nippers are both scriveners. A scrivener's job is to make copies of the original documents with pen and paper, as there were no Xerox machines earlier. In the morning, Turkey writes well, but as the afternoon arrives, he writes badly. He spills the ink all over the page and he just writes terribly. On the other hand, Nippers can't write properly in the mornings. He's agitated. He's moving, he's changing his positions, he fails to adjust himself at his desk. So in the morning, Turkey writes well, but Nippers does not. And in the afternoons, Nippers writes well, but Turkey does not. So basically, technically speaking, both of them do only half their job and get full pay. And their boss, the lawyer, rather than dismissing them from their job for being so terrible at it, he tries to cope with them. He gives important documents to Turkey in the morning and he gives important documents to Nippers in the afternoons. With time, the lawyer's business grows and he is in need of another scrivener. So he advertises for it, and a motionless, pale-looking young man arrives at his office. It was Bartleby. The lawyer hires him and places his desk close to his own. For the first few days, Bartleby works excellent. Unlike Turkey and Nippers, he works full day. He never leaves his desk and he's just working like a machine. So the lawyer is impressed by his work. After a few days, a very strange incident happens. The lawyer, sitting in his cabin, calls Bartleby and tells him to examine some documents with him. Bartleby says, "I would prefer not to." The lawyer thinks maybe he has not understood me, so he repeats. But Bartleby again says, "I would prefer not to." The lawyer gets irritated. He walks up to him and says, "What you mean? Come help me with this document." But Bartleby is like, "I prefer not to." And he keeps doing what he's doing. So the lawyer goes back to his cabin. Though he is disturbed by Bartleby's behavior, in the hurry of his business, he decides to deal with him later. A few days later, the lawyer summons all his employees. There is this lengthy document that is to be examined. The lawyer will read from the original document and his employees have to check by listening if their copies are correct or not. But Bartleby does not come. So the lawyer calls him and asks him to join the group. Bartleby says, "I would prefer not to." Now here, rather than getting angry, the lawyer tries to reason with him. He says, "Bartleby, you made these copies, and by examining them, we are making your work easy. And it is a part of your job. So come join." But Bartleby again says, "I would prefer not to." The lawyer asks his other employees what do they think of it. Turkey says, "You are correct, sir, he should join us." And Nippers like, "We should kick him out." Nippers is irritated, and so it means it is morning when this incident is happening. Anyway, Bartleby is silent. He gives no reply. Now again, the lawyer lets it slide in the hurry of his business and he thinks he will deal with him later. Over time, the lawyer notices that Bartleby never eats except for some cheap biscuits that Ginger Nut brings him for a few pennies. Maybe that's why he's so physically weak. He eats nothing else. He takes no lunch break, no smoke break like Turkey and Nippers. He just stays in his little chamber and writes all day. Now, though Bartleby is strange, it is visible in his character, his way of speaking, and especially in his countenance that he means no mischief. And the lawyer sees it. The lawyer believes that Bartleby is an innocent and honest man. He even keeps some of his important documents in Bartleby's hands. It is quite clear to him that Bartleby does not deliberately behave strangely. He thinks that something bad must have occurred in Bartleby's life that has now made him this sad, melancholy, and strange man. And because he feels somewhat sad for Bartleby, he tries to be good to him, thinking that maybe then Bartleby will listen to him. But it's difficult to tolerate Bartleby's passive resistance, and one day the lawyer even scolds him badly. One Sunday morning, the lawyer is on his way to the church when he suddenly decides to visit his office as it is close to the church. When he does, he notices that the door is locked from inside. He knocks and then Bartleby opens the door ajar. Bartleby apologizes and asks his boss to give him a few minutes, and then he hurriedly leaves the office. The lawyer is shocked. He enters his office and it is quite clear to him that Bartleby has been living in his office. He checks and all the important stuff and everything else are there. Nothing is missing. Why is Bartleby living here? The lawyer thinks. Does he have no family? No friends? In afternoons and holidays, there is not a sound of life on Wall Street. How does Bartleby live in this silent and solitary place? The next day, the lawyer asks Bartleby about his history, thinking maybe he can help him in any way. So he calmly asks questions like where he was born, where his family is, etc. But Bartleby just replies, I prefer not to tell, every time. Now the lawyer is in this dilemma. He is thinking maybe he should fire Bartleby, but also thinks maybe not. He thinks it will be immoral if he fires Bartleby because it is a high chance that he will be treated badly in his new workplace by his new co-workers and boss because of his strange behavior. And in between this dilemma, one day the lawyer notices that Bartleby is just looking outside his window. And through this window actually, all you can see is just a wall of another building and nothing else. The lawyer goes up to him and Bartleby says, my eyes are dull and I can't see properly. So the lawyer says, yeah, you write non-stop. You should take some break. Now a few days passes and the lawyer notices that Bartleby is still not writing, even though his eyes looks fine now. He is just standing there looking outside this window which has nothing to look at. So the lawyer goes up to him and asks, why are you not writing now? Bartleby says, I will not write anymore. Why? I prefer not to. And the lawyer is left with no other choice but to dismiss Bartleby. So he politely tells him to leave the office, but gives him 6 days time to find another job. Now after 6 days, the lawyer comes to his office and Bartleby is still there. So the lawyer goes up to him and says, you must leave today. And he hands him some extra money. Next day comes. The lawyer still finds Bartleby in the office. And he is just looking through this window and doing nothing. The lawyer is like, what should I do now? Should I abuse him and kick him out of the office? Should I call the police? Or should I let him stay? At one point, He thinks that maybe this is all predestined. Maybe Bartleby has some mystical purpose, so I should not remove him from my office. Eventually, he decides that he will relocate his office. So he tells Bartleby that he is relocating his office, and within few days, he shifts all his furniture and everything from his old office to the new one. He gives Bartleby some money, says goodbye, and leaves. Finally, he gets rid of Bartleby. Bartleby does not chase him to his new office. But then one day, a man visits him. And he is the new owner of the old office. And he says that there is this one guy whom I don't know and he's not leaving my office. The lawyer says, yes, this guy was under my employment, but I fired him and I know nothing about him. So the other says, okay, I'll settle him then, and leaves. So the lawyer thinks all is over. But just after a week, a group of people arrives at his office and they say to the lawyer that this guy whom you employed was not leaving this guy's office, so we kicked him out. But now he has been sitting outside on the stairs every day. And it is disturbing to us. And in a way, he is haunting the place. So do something about it. The lawyer is forced to visit him. So he goes and talks to him. He asks, Bartleby, what are you doing here? And he says, I'm sitting by the banister. Now the lawyer is trying to convince him. He said, you cannot sit here forever. You must do something. I'll help you. The lawyer recommends some professions to him. He says, you want to start copying again? Would you like to be a bartender? How about a clerk? Bartleby says, I prefer not to make any change. Now at last the lawyer says, will you come to my house then? Not my office, my dwelling place. You can stay there until you find a job. But Bartleby still says, I prefer not to. Now the lawyer, with no other choice, leaves him there, and the landlord of that old building calls the police, and Bartleby is sent to jail as a vagrant. After a few days, the lawyer gets the news that Bartleby is sent to jail. So he goes to jail and begs the officer there to let him talk to Bartleby, who allows him because Bartleby has not committed any serious crime, and for the same reason Bartleby is permitted to be in the prison yard, and there the lawyer meets him. The lawyer tries to talk to Bartleby, but he does not say much. So eventually, as the lawyer leaves, he meets prison cook. The prison cook tells him that Bartleby is not eating. So the lawyer gives money to the prison cook and tells him to give good food to Bartleby and take care of him. And then the lawyer leaves. After a week or so, the lawyer again comes to visit Bartleby. But Bartleby is not in his cell. So the lawyer tries to find him. He goes to the prison yard, and there one prison guard tells him that Bartleby is there sleeping on the ground. The lawyer reaches up to him and he sees that Bartleby's eyes are open, but otherwise he looks completely asleep. Now the lawyer touches Bartleby's hand and it is clear to him that Bartleby is dead. The prison cook tells him that Bartleby has been refusing to eat any food.